Hi guys, I'm going to talk to you today about ego and how it can support success. So ego gets a pretty bad rap, but it shouldn't. You see, ego in partnership with your intuitive mind creates the ultimate power couple. Befriending your ego, instead of villainizing it, will change how you think, change how you behave, and change how you take action massively. When you lead with your intuitive mind, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more on Monday in another live, and allow your ego to build structure and form around the information that comes through intuitively, you will develop the ultimate recipe for success. So let me give you a little bit of an example of that so you can kind of feel into it in real time. I have a client that I've been working with, and she is a classic people pleaser, classic overgiver. She knows this about herself. And in the container of her business, she knew she had to change some things, but she was kind of afraid of doing it. Her intuitive knowing was screaming at her. She received message after message in her mind. Change it, stop this, do this. But she perceived these instructions, these little snippets of wisdom, as being uncompromising and harsh. So doubt hitting. We looked at this together and found a way that she could bring in these changes that her intuitive mind was offering to her in a manner that felt more compromising, a little bit softer, rather than the harshness that she attributed to the original instructions. So she integrated the intuitive advice with kind of the lived experience of her ego and made it work for her business and herself in reality. That happened in about 6 months, from the initial message, do this, do this, do this, to finding a way that it can be kind of integrated into her everyday business in a way that worked for her and supported her letting go of some of her overgiving patterns. So, how do you befriend your ego? That's the ultimate question, isn't it? Well, in my up and coming mini training, I'll be devoting day 2 of my shamanic shift to discussing this and showing you how you can do that in your everyday life. But for now, here are 3 simple steps that you can utilize if you are looking to bring your ego into the fold so that you become its friend rather than it being your enemy. So the first thing is to recognize your judgments of others, of yourself, of situations, to recognize where you project your kind of experience onto something without actually fully having all the full facts. Record these little snippets of information so that you can notice a theme, because recognition is always the first step in shifting anything into something that is more aligned to your potential, and ultimately that's what we're looking at here. Step 2 is to accept that you have these judgments and these projections. Ultimately, we're human, aren't we? And we live in this way. Everything in life is a projection from your own perception, from your lived experience. And once you accept that you have these projections and judgments, you can allow yourself to acknowledge the emotions that come with that. And that's step 3, which is to acknowledge your feelings through any judgment. Recognize, accept, and acknowledge your patterns. You get to really start to know more and more and more about yourself and how you behave and what the dynamics are in any given situation coming from you. And once you do that, you get to love yourself a bit more. And that ultimately changes the energy around any situation. So instead of your ego being an enemy, it starts to become your friend and a source of information on how you can shift and change towards your potential, towards your possibility. Remember, your potential is always fluid, it's never fixed, and it's always changing, which kicks off your ego because change is not something that is good for it. You know, it doesn't like it. It likes homeostasis. So just to recap that there for you, recognize, accept, acknowledge, and love yourself. And you'll find that your ego comes around to be a huge source of information, a way to build structure and strategy around your intuitive wisdom that comes through in that quiet voice that you often doubt. So I'll be taking you through the next layers of this in Shamanic Shift. So come and join me beginning of October for 3 days live